COVID-19 related drugs and treatment is concerned, we'll be talking more on that with the doctors who are joining us here on the special broadcast. Good evening to you, Dr. Mukunda Perlukar. He is the Secretary of the API Pune. Dr. B.S. Ajay Kumar is also joining us, Founder, Chairman and CEO of Healthcare Global Enterprises Limited. Dr. Alok Roy, he is the Chairman of the Medical Group of Hospitals. He's joining us live from Kolkata. Anand Ranganathan is also with us, author and scientist, also joining us from the National Capital. Good evening to you, gentlemen and doctors. Of course, we'll be talking about the COVID-19 related treatment and the drugs, because there is a lot of misinformation that goes around, especially on the social media. Dr. Mukunda, if you can help us understand the drugs that are being used. We're looking even on social media, there are prescriptions that are being shared. Of course, this is to be avoided at any cost possible, because one treatment that is being given to a particular COVID-19 patient is not really the similar treatment that would be given to another patient. So can you help us understand and bust those myths around the treatment?
Right, thank you very much. I am Dr. Mukund. Basically, as you said, there are many WhatsApp forwards which are being used by different patients. The same forward is being used by a different patient. That may not be possible or feasible for each and every patient to be started. But definitely for those who are home quarantined, those can take, as of now, the approved drugs for those patients are like ivermectin, that can be given for maybe 5 days, 12 milligram HS for 5 days. And otherwise, most of the times, in the initial phase or early stages of the illness, only multivitamins and some antiplatelets may be used for such patients, and we may not be using many hi-fi drugs. It is a very simple treatment, and we have to just observe whether the patients are not getting any complications. As initially we have to just see whether patient is having temperature for more than 100 degree for maybe 5 to 7 days, or if the patient has desaturation less than 94 oxygen saturation. That is what is required. And over a period of time, if the patient needs hospitalization, then only we can think of the remdesivir if at all the patient is hypoxic and getting temperature more than 100. So, and favipiravir also is one of the drugs, but it has not shown any promising results. We have been using it. There are some side effects related to this drug. And the most important thing is we should not use steroids for those patients who are on home quarantine, because you may have just seen that mucormycosis is one of the important factor which is limiting for such patients, because those patients are generally unattended, though they are not like monitoring sugars or monitoring many other things which are required. So steroids are generally used only if the patient is hypoxic or if the saturation is less than 94, and that too under medical supervision, generally in the hospitalized patients. So these are the basic types of drugs which we use. And then there are many other immunomodulators which can be used in those patients who are hospitalized, but those are under medical supervision.
Right. Dr. Kumar, I want to take that lead from what Dr. Mukund has been pointing out, because this is a viewer question that is coming when it comes to the use of steroids. Of course, there are side effects attached to it, and when it comes to the stealth treatment that we usually look at people themselves going across to the chemist and buying those medicines using the prescription of other COVID-19 patients, that is to be refrained and avoided at all costs. But if we talk about the side effects of the steroids, Dr. Kumar, if you can help us understand what is it all about and what has been your experience so far looking with and treating COVID-19 patients?
I can't hear the conversation. Hello?
Dr. Kumar, can you hear me, sir?
No, I can't hear anything.
All right, Dr. Kumar, we're going to fix that audio line with you, but Dr. Roy, if you can take that question to you, sir, because we are talking about steroids. Of course, there is a time that they need to be given to a COVID-19 patient, and self-treatment is something that needs to be avoided at all costs. Would you want to tell us more on that, the myths and the misleading information, sir, that has been doing the rounds?
Here, see, the treatment of COVID, only three things work for certainly in COVID treatment. One is oxygen, second is steroid, third is injectable blood thinners. These three are short, helpful in COVID treatment. Everything else is just supportive or not very useful, including the remdesivir and the favipiravir, as my previous speaker has said. I think steroid must not be taken on their own, must not be taken at home. Oxygen must not be taken at home. In case if you require oxygen or steroid, it better you are in an institution which can monitor it. Because this time, the second wave, the trends are not as orderly as we have experienced last time. In last pandemic, last year, it was very well ordained virus, where everything was, we knew that third day this is what will happen, fifth day this is what will happen, ninth day there will be storm coming in, sneaking in, 11th day, 12th day there could be storm, and nothing has happened for 14 days, patient is set to go home. This is not the case this time. We find storm coming on 24th day, we find people desaturating on third day, we find people being suddenly dipping on fifth day, we lose people on third day, fifth day, seventh day, 10th day. So this time the virus is a wide variety. The constant supervision by physician is must. Constantly from the beginning, the moment the case is identified as a COVID-19, you need to be in consultation with the doctor. You patient relatives have to be far more alert than what they were last time. And they have to be constantly monitoring their blood oxygen level, and the movement, there is a movement on negative side, must consult and move to an institution. This COVID is far worse than the last COVID we had last year.
Oh, absolutely, Dr. Roy, because we are looking at a vertical stretch when it comes to the number of cases that have now literally shot up in just a few days' time. That today has been the only day when we are looking at a certain drop in the overall number of cases, but it does not mean that we let our guard down there. Dr. Kumar, I'm hoping that you can hear me now, sir. But Dr. Kumar, if you can address to another viewer question, sir, because they are coming as far as more people who say that if we are asymptomatic or we have mild COVID-19 symptoms, what are the SOS medicines should one take? Because this is not the right time. Do you believe that to approach a doctor or go to a hospital that minute itself? Is there something that can be done at home only?
Yeah, I am a firm believer that early symptoms should be recognized as quickly as possible. I myself at this time have about 25 patients we are trying to manage at home. One of the things, even oncology patients, one of the things we do is as soon as the first symptoms come, we put them on a protocol, even though they may be asymptomatic, and monitor them on a daily basis. You know, like the patients now call me almost twice a day. You know, I give them times and they call me with a report on their temperature, on their shortness of breath, cough, sore throat, any symptoms which are changing. I think the best way to control these patients is very early. It is very clear the first 48 to 72 hours are clear. And we have documented, you know, some of the very prominent people who come to our hospital with advanced case, all of them have ignored the first 3 days of symptom. See, what happens is they start developing cough, some fever, and some shortness of breath. Oh, they think it's nothing. You know, how can I have COVID? So under these circumstances, they ignore for the first 3-4 days. That is when they get into problem. That is when they develop, you know, pneumonia, and, problem becomes a little bit more intense, oxygen requirement, lung changes. So the first 3 days, if you can recognize and start them on some of the therapy, and particularly if they have fever and if their viral count is very high, on RT-PCR, if their count is high, immediately they need a remdesivir. I don't have any doubt that this is a very good drug. It should be used, as soon as they're eligible for it. Not all of them are eligible. And another thing we are doing at home now is we are now beginning to use home care and oxygen concentrators. This is another step in the right direction where people are panicking. Everybody calls me. I don't know how many calls I get per day. My oxygen level is down to 90, 92. They monitor it, on an obsessive basis. So what we are telling them is you don't have to be like that. You monitor twice. And we are now putting them on oxygen concentrator. Right now, we are treating a lady who is 75 years old at home because we couldn't get a place for her for, over the weekend. But we have managed her through weekend by using an oxygen concentrator. So all I am saying is there are ways. And also there is this concept of EICU, what we are beginning to do, where we can actually put a monitor at home and from your ICU, you monitor them and see if they're undergoing any changes. See, the issue is, one is fear, second is panic, third is comfort. Once we give them comfort that some doctor is there, you should see some of the WhatsApp I get from my patients. I'm very comfortable because you are watching over us. I think that itself is a great medicine for them instead of panic, because a lot of patients who come to the hospital actually don't require hospitalization. They can be managed at home. But there is a time and place for everything. But right now, the media, everybody is talking about oxygen shortage, everybody is talking about no beds. So people are panicking. So I think the war room and the concept what even Mumbai did and all that, I think if we can take a page out of very well done in Mumbai, recently how they handled the BBMP, I think we should take the page out of that. In Bangalore also, they're beginning to do the same. Hopefully with that, the crisis will come under control in the next...
Dr. Kumar, I agree when you say that there is a time and place for everything. But Dr. Mukund, when it comes to the usage of remdesivir, as Dr. Kumar has just pointed out, of course, there is a certain time that the COVID-19 patient should be treated with remdesivir. You have vials and vials of this antiviral drug that is being black marketing, being hoarded rampantly across the country. Of course, this is really unfortunate at this point in time. But are there other alternatives? Because we are looking at many of those families who are literally running from pillar to post to find those vials of remdesivir. Dr. Mukund.
Actually, as you said, there is some time for starting this remdesivir, and generally it is required for the hospitalized patients. And as my previous speaker, Mr. Dr. Kumar said, we should use it at right place at right time. Those patients who are becoming like having fever for more than 72 hours with some sort of hypoxia, or you can say inducible hypoxia, whenever somebody is walking for 3 minutes, even if he or she is walking for 3 minutes and the oxygen level is coming down from maybe whatever the normal level of more than 95 to less than 92, then we should think of, especially if the patient is looking toxic. So if we use it properly in proper patients, then we may not need that this sort of black marketing and such kind of things. Remdesivir, otherwise, if it is used for proper patients, it shows very good results. We have seen many patients who come at right time. When we use such drugs, the patients may not need the ICU or further kind of treatment. He or she may need only a liter or two of oxygen, and the patients may recover early. As of now, if you ask me, there are no other antiviral drugs which are as effective as remdesivir, especially if you consider favipiravir as one of the options, which we don't find it is very useful. But otherwise, the steroids are the next line of treatment, although both are not comparable, but we have to just start these patients on steroids, those who have saturation of less than 92. New drugs which we have been using along with remdesivir is baricitinib. That is also one of the promising drug, I would say. This has been used in USA already and is being available in India now. Although it is somewhat costly, but it also is showing some promising results. I think colchicine is also one of the drug which we use in Pune very frequently. because of its anti-inflammatory effects. This drug we have been using for a different purpose since many years. Those who have the CRP of more than maybe 50 or 60,
Right.
or those whose CRP is increasing, in these patients we use colchicine also very frequently. So that also is one of the important drugs.
All right. Dr. Roy, if I can come to you, if you're talking about steroids, sir, what is the right time to actually start using the steroids and the right time to actually stop them? The long-time side effects that can also be seen in the usage of steroids, would you want to clarify on the same?
Steroids are not normally the first line of defense. We have other medicines which we give in a mildly asymptomatic. But once patient comes in, there's a desaturation and we feel that the inflammatory markers are high. That's where the steroids gets introduced. And what the pattern which we saw last year, where we were very cautious with the steroid, this time in this pandemic, the steroids, the amount, the duration, number of times given is much more higher. And as somebody else just now said that we are also using the nasal steroid, which is a budesonide, which is another helpful steroid. The steroid is certainly the main backbone of treatment of COVID last time also, this time also. And now earlier we could terminate it earlier in 3-4 days, but now in the severe cases it gets continued for a long time. In tapering, sometimes it goes up to 20-25 days, the total duration of treatment if the patient survives and does well.
Right. Dr. Kumar, asking you the last question, sir, here on the broadcast, because the difference this time around from the first wave and the second wave, this time around we are looking at there has been acute shortage of all of the medical essentials that are required to treat the COVID-19 patients, from beds to oxygen supplies to other equipments to medicines to antiviral drugs. Your experience so far, if you want to compare last year, the first wave with the second wave, because looking at more and more people who are just rushing to the hospitals there, and there is a complete scarcity to find even one single bed, sir.
Yes, absolutely. But if you look at the total numbers, highest number reported last in the first wave was around 95,000 or 98,000. Today in India, we are reporting 400,000 or more. So obviously the second wave has been much more significant, the numbers. And the second important thing is it is affecting the younger population also. And we are seeing it more like what Dr. Roy said, more severity in the younger population. And those are non-vaccinated. One of the things we are beginning to see, we are collecting data, is that, the number of patients who are vaccinated, we are not seeing that significant amount of hospitalization. Whereas, at least even if they had first jab. So this is another change in the epidemiology of this disease we are beginning to observe. So what happens in the future is, yes, there has been shortage of oxygen, as we discussed, whether it is real shortage or it is hoarding, whether black marketing. But I see some early signs as of yesterday, the things are beginning to improve. I think the number of drugs available, the oxygen has also improved. So hopefully this is the beginning of the end. That is what I'm hoping, being very optimistic. But certainly the second wave has taught us immense lessons in healthcare, not only in management of COVID, but overall general healthcare. And one of the take-home lessons is, we have to give importance to healthcare. We cannot be spending 1.5% of GDP and say we will do everything what an advanced country does.
Absolutely.
And we have phenomenal doctors, we have phenomenal people, hospitals, but unless we spend more for healthcare, I don't think we can progress. We will not be able to withstand such calamities in the future. So I think as we give importance to other aspects in our infrastructure, healthcare should be considered an infrastructure and given significant importance. 75% of the healthcare is managed by private. Why is importance not given? That is
Oh,
the
a
reason.
boost to our
Why is
healthcare
it? And also,
structure is, of course, very important there because Dr. Mukund, Dr. Roy, and Dr. Kumar, you would agree with me because we're already looking at the government who is now preparing us for a third wave of the pandemic. But are we really ready to tackle it? Because we are still in the midst of the second wave. But Dr. Mukund, last question to you, sir. If you want to tell us on the post-COVID complications that you have seen in many of the patients, of course, we are talking about the rare black fungal infection that has affected many of those patients. It could turn fatal if left untreated. But what are the other COVID-related complications that you see in most of those people who have recovered from COVID-19?
All right. As you said, the most important thing during this wave we are seeing is mucormycosis. Maybe because of some different strain of virus, or maybe the steroids are overused, or the sugars are not being monitored properly. But along with mucormycosis, definitely the previous years or since long we are seeing the complications related to the COVID or pulmonary fibrosis. Those who have higher involvement of lungs, those patients may get some permanent changes in their lungs. Maybe around 3 months at least, these patients are being coughing for a long time, and they are requiring oxygen for more than a month. Then you can say that those patients who have not got proper, what you can say, anticoagulation, or otherwise also, we have been seeing the patients getting acute myocardial infarction or strokes, like heart attacks and paralysis. Those are also one of the important complications we are seeing post-COVID. The post-COVID scenario is very important. The most important thing which I forgot to discuss is the psychosis. Most of the patients are having so much of anxiety that even if they get you can say a mild fever thereafter, they will get into the shell, and they would find so many things for, like we see on the Google or the internet, they just go on finding so many things, and they are like very much anxious, and the mental health is also disturbed in post COVID. So these are few important points which I would like to mention.
Right. All right. So drugs during the COVID-19 treatment, what is to be taken, what is not to be taken, what is just to be left to the doctors there to get themselves treated, and self-treatment till at a point is completely which should be avoided at all cost. But Dr. Roy, if I can come back for a quick question to you, sir, because we are talking about many of those immunity boosters at home. What can be done, especially for the recovery of those patients of COVID-19? Of course, there are many of those patients who have still tested positive for COVID-19, who have been tested before positive for COVID-19. They have tested again, but with mild symptoms. Any of those advices that you want to give out to those people?
Stay positive. Stay positive. Don't panic. The biggest problem in this pandemic has been the panic for the patient and for the family. So don't panic. Stay at home. Take your healthy food. And if you are mildly symptomatic, then just look after yourself and rest. And these are the few things which will keep you healthy and keep you fit. Mental health, as Mr. Pukul, my co-panelist, has mentioned, is becoming a very serious issue. The crippled lung is becoming another issue. So if you are mildly symptomatic and at home, just eat well, sleep well, don't panic, take crocin to control your fever, and you should be all right, God willing.
All right. Thank you very much, doctors there. Thank you very much for taking out your time and dispelling all the myths around COVID-19 treatment, the drugs, and of course, not to get yourself treatment with others' prescriptions. That is one thing that need to be noted right here. Consult a doctor only when necessary, and of course, not to panic and take necessary precautions while being at home. Thank you very much, doctors, for taking out your time. Dr. Mukund, Dr. Kumar, and Dr. Roy. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.